It's time to talk some Florida State football tonight on the C Gap Blitz podcast. Welcome into the C Gap Blitz podcast, Saturday night, July 23rd. My name is Chris Strasball. Thank you for joining me. If you're listening to this, that means you are a Florida State fan, and I appreciate you. We are talking 2022, my version of the State of the Seminoles. I do this every year. I go on early, and I kind of give a preview of what's to come for my beloved Noles down in Tallahassee, and I got to tell you, I'm really excited about this season. If you follow along with the ACC, and you know that the ACC kickoff happened earlier this week up in Charlotte, down in Charlotte from where I'm from, and we got to see Mike Norvell, Fabian Lovett, Jamie Robinson, and Jordan Travis all representing Florida State. And if you listen to their interviews, and I'll get to Mike Norvell before I really get into any of the kickoff, but if you listen to their interviews from this year to last year to Norvell's first year, you can already just see and hear the growth and their confidence in the way they're talking. Okay, yeah, I know, you got to get on the field, you got to back it up. Yeah, sure, I get that. But what's not to love about what's coming back? I want to start with Mike Norvell, and then I'll get into the real nitty-gritty and the meat of what we have this year here on the Blitz for the State of the Seminoles. But I'm going to start with Norvell. I don't get to go to every game because I live in Ohio. I don't get to get all the behind the curtains and stuff. But I watch literally every interview that he gives that's available on social media. And from day one, the day he stepped onto Doak Campbell off of that helicopter with his family, walked across the field with his family, his message has not changed from then until 7/23 on July 23rd. It has been the same consistent message. You've hired the right guy. That was his first thing. To now, you're looking at, now we have to execute. I love this team. I'm looking forward to what we've got going on. His message has not changed. He practices what he preaches, and in a big open bubble, that's what you're going to get from FSU this year. Are they going to win every game? No, they're not going to win every game. They're just not, because they're still young, and they're still growing, and they still have a lot of learning to do. But they are going to be loads better just by what we've witnessed over the past 2 years. It doesn't take any time at all. You watch one or two interviews with head coach Mike Norvell, and you're hooked. You're on board, you're bought in, and you're like, this guy has got it. They did hire the right guy. I'm going to back Norvell. Even if they run him out of town, I'm going to back Norvell. For everything he's had to go through, from taking over the team in a COVID year, which hadn't happened in 100 years, by the way, to where it's at now, just amazing the job that his staff has done, and what the product they put on the field 3 years ago to the product we're going to see against Duquesne week 1. He's the right guy for the job. You hear reports and you watch these videos, and if he doesn't win 6 or 7, if he doesn't win, well, 6 is terrible. If he doesn't win 7 or 8 games, he's fired, or he needs to be fired. No, I I don't agree with that. Because then you're starting from scratch. You're starting over again, and you're going to lose the coaching staff. You're going to lose the recruits that's coming. And this is a process. It's a building process. We've talked about this. Not only myself, not only Taylor from Norvell Central, Chris Frazier from Spear Addicts. We've all talked about this. This is a building block process. This did not happen overnight. This is the culmination of what Jimbo stopped when he quit recruiting years ago to what Norvell's rebuilding right here. Firing him isn't the answer because you're literally starting from scratch. So to those people, I say, maybe you should reevaluate what kind of a fan you are. I'll never challenge any kind of fandom for any school or any fan base. But if you're a true Florida State fan, and I know a handful of guys that'll back me on this 100%. If you're a true Florida State fan, okay, you see what he's putting in the Kool-Aid in Tallahassee right now. You see what they're mixing up. Okay, blood, sweat, and tears. Work hard, climb. And this year will be way better than last year. Got to give Norvell a chance. That's my soapbox. Now we get to talk about what we got coming back this year and why we do have a really good reason to be excited about FSU football for 2022. I love the ACC kickoff because it gets a chance to watch, all these quarterbacks and all these big-time, all these players that the school feels are their brand ambassadors. They're taking to these meetings, and they're representing their school. Okay, I enjoyed Malik Cunningham. I enjoyed Phil Dracovic. I enjoyed the linebackers that they interviewed from NC State. Because, again, it gets you an idea of what all these teams are doing. They're all getting ready. They all have one common goal. First, it's ACC championship and go to a bowl game. Which bowl game? Depends on how you play. But right now, it's like the NFL, week 0. We're all with the NFL. All 32 teams have a chance when week 1 kicks off. Every college team across the country has the same aspirations every single year. That's why it's so fun. It's crisp. It's clean. It's a new year. One of the interviews, and I'm going to get to these. I'm going to touch on the interviews a little bit, and then we're going to get into the meat of the team. One of the questions was asked to Jordan Travis, and I loved the answer. They said, when you look back on last year and some of the issues, that you were facing, it kind of got you down. What do you take away from that? And he looked at the guy and he said, honestly, I'm not even thinking about last year. I've moved on. Now, whether that was told to him to say that, if that question come up, answer it like that. But to me, the way I saw him portray it, that was honest, that was legit, that was comfortable. And this is the best we've seen and the most confident we've seen Jordan Travis since he put on the FSU uniform. And you know me, I am a Jordan Travis fan. I love this kid. I don't think he has a gigantic NFL future, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope that somehow he comes out of it and he ends up in the NFL because I am buying that jersey, folks. I'm doing it. I love this kid. I love his work ethic. I love his humble yet hungry mentality for the game and what he brings to this team. When Mackenzie Milton had his first little dip last year, and Travis should have never left the field unless it was for injury again. The Mackenzie Milton experiment, God love his heart, wasn't great, and that hurt Jordan Travis because am I going to get yanked? Am I going in this series? Am I going to get yanked? This year it's his team. You can see the command he has in his interviews, and I can't wait to see how that translates onto the field. Jamie Robinson, another transfer from South Carolina. I talked about him a little bit last week on my Devy episode as a Devy guy to watch, like a little, put him in your pocket because this kid is a dog. And I'm going to get to the secondary in a little bit for Florida State. But Jamie Robinson, the confidence and just the dog mentality that he brings And he put it on there. He put it on when he was talking. You could just see the intensity. He's ready to play. He's ready to go. Fabian Lovett. This is a big dude that plays in the middle, down where the big dogs eat. Okay, he should have a really good year for that FSU defense. On a defensive line that could be very nice. All three guys were transfers in. I don't know if that's coincidence or if that was planned out by Norvell and staff, because as we all know, the transfer portal has been very good to Norvell and Florida State over the past 2 seasons now. So it may have been like a calling card, like, hey, look, these guys were elsewhere, they came here, they're hungry to play for our team. You know, if you're looking for something else, somewhere else to go, maybe we're a fit for you. Okay, Mike Norvell, the interviews with Mike Norvell. Loved the interviews with Mike Norvell. If you watch the one from War Chant where he's kind of sitting at a table, he was in a chair and there's a table, and you watch that interview, I love the quiet, yet it's like a load has been taken off of his shoulders, and he knows that they're turning the corner. They're not a national championship contending team yet. We all know that. Okay? But they're better than they were this time last year. And you can just see it. You can see the way that he's a little bit less, he's not as tightly wound. He probably will get tightly wound once the games and stuff start, obviously. He's a coach. But he just exudes an ambiance of confidence. And that's one thing that I absolutely love about this guy. And, he's rapidly, and as much as I love what Jimbo did for this program, he's probably jumping up to my number 2 quarterback, my number 2 favorite coach in FSU history. Now, he ain't going to beat the number 1 because that's untouchable. But it seems like it means so much more to Norvell. Because, Jimbo coached at LSU under Saban. He was brought up, with the silver spoons. Norvell had to come up through the ranks, playing in Division II with those blonde dreads, which was a different look for him. Coming up through not a gigantic name, Power 5 school, then going to Memphis. He's done his work to get where he's at. So it's like he appreciates it more because he's growing with the team as well. And I love that about. I could go on about Norvell because I'm such a fan of his, and I can only hope that he is the same guy that you meet. If you was to meet him in person, he would portray that same exuberance, when the camera's not on him. I would only hope that he's that passionate in his day-to-day life. It is just amazing. They got the right guy, and I'm going to back him forever. What we have to look forward to this year is some really exciting stuff. Okay? We now know that the quarterback situation is locked down. It's Jordan Travis's team. Okay? He's put on some weight. He's up to like 212, which means I think they said he put on 11 pounds of muscle. They say he's faster, which is great, but his health and his ability to stay on the field is the most important factor in this equation for FSU to have a successful season. If he goes down for a length of more than 2 games, FSU is going to be in trouble. I'm not taking anything away from Tate Rodemaker, who's listed as the number 2 backup. It probably will be the number 2 guy because they're probably going to try to redshirt A.J. Duffy, if they can, not play him and get him an extra year of eligibility down the line. But it all starts with Travis. Playing smarter, keeping himself safe. He bulked up, put on some weight. That was good weight. So he could take some more, I'm not saying abuse, because he needs to. And he said this in his interview. He said, I'm a passer first, and then I can run if I have to. He needs to keep that mentality. And here's the reason why I think it's going to be a little bit more successful this year. Look at the offensive line changes. Okay, not only do we have a couple of big old dudes coming back, okay, these guys are coming back with experience now. Seasons under their belt. FSU's returning 70, I can't remember the number. It's like 76 or 77% of their roster from last year, which is second in the conference. That's huge for this program for this year. And it's going to translate into next year. And it's going to ripple effect into the year after that. What FSU has coming back this year, adding in what they've brought in on the transfer portal on the offensive line, which will be better. It really needs to be a lot better, but to be mid-road of the conference rankings is sky's the limit better for this team this year in 22. So the way I've got it looked at right now, you're looking at Maurice Smith, Caden Lyles is going to be the starting center. Maurice Smith, you get some experience. Caden Lyles, transfer in from Wisconsin, big, strong, corn-fed kid. You know, I'm not sure who they're going to have as center yet. I really don't know. I like both of these guys because of their size, their experience. You know, they're coming back with the same unit. Dylan Gibbons, he transferred in last year from Notre Dame. Okay, he's going to anchor the guard position. Robert Scott, who is just an absolute mammoth of a man. Just absolutely, he's like 6'5". Just a grown man playing a kid's game. Washington at right guard. And I assume it'll be Bless Harris at the right tackle position because he's another transfer in, and he's another very large human that is just oozing with potential. That the experience and the size and the cohesiveness of this offensive line paired in with Jordan Travis staying healthy because the line's going to protect him more, and he can rely on what we're going to talk about next, which is the three-headed monster at running back. Just blows up with potential for what this FSU offense can do. Now, nothing is won on potential. No games, no titles, no nothing is won on potential. Every one of these guys you talk to, they all say, yes, I love where I'm at this team, but we have to execute every single game every single week. We have to go out there. We have to do it. They have to do it week in and week out. None of them like the taste that Jacksonville State game left in their mouth last year. None of them. Nobody wants to experience that again. Not the players, not the fans, not me, no one. Because that was a jaw dropper, and it just left you with all kinds of questions and what the heck just happened. That can't happen again. This offensive line is going to be loads better, which is going to be good for Jordan Travis, which is going to open up the running game, which is going to open up the passing game. And it all starts right there. Okay, and I know the defense is supposed to do their job and get them the ball back. I'll get to the defense here in just a little bit, but this team is going to go as far as the offensive line and Jordan Travis staying healthy on the field can take them. Because it's a different element. What Jordan Travis brings to the game is something we've really never seen before in college football. He has a unique agility factor that you just don't see. And it's almost like it's in his head, and he already knows that it's just there. You can't teach it. You factor that in with some time to throw the ball, with an upgrade at the receiver position, which we'll get to in a little bit. And the theme of the whole 2022 State of the Seminoles may be the transfer portal, because it has really got us really excited about what we can see this year. They're not going to go 12-0. They're just not. Okay? But a game above 500 gets them into a bowl game, and we're a heck of a lot farther along than we have been over the past 3 seasons. And that's what we're looking for. That's what I'm looking for realistically. Okay? As a fan, a diehard fan of FSU, I want to see a winning season and a bowl game. I don't care. I don't care what bowl it is. Doesn't matter. It could be the Gasparilla Bowl. It can be the Tax Slayer. I don't care what bowl it is. I just want to see him go to a bowl. Get bowl eligible, and you're already better than you were last year. That's what we're going on. And then we build on that for 23, which we're not there yet. We're talking 22. I'm not looking for him to go 12-0. I'm not looking for him to go 10-2 or 9-3. 8 wins would just blow my socks off. You would hear me every single week on my Hitman's recap. I would just be ecstatic at that. 8 wins would just be like a Christmas present to me that came way early in like Thanksgiving time. But it all starts up front with the offensive line, protecting Jordan Travis, keeping him healthy, and I love what I'm seeing. I love what I'm hearing. It's going to be really fun to watch. The 3-headed monster at running back, which I spoke about before, could end up turning into like 4 or 5 running backs, depending on how FSU and Norvell and the offense decides to run it. But their 3 main guys are going to be Trayshawn Ward, Trey Benson, and Lawrence Toafili. All 3 of those guys bring a different, unique kind of skill set. Trey Benson is the transfer in from Oregon. Terrible knee injury. Sidelined him, I think, for 2020 and 21, if my memory serves. I mean, his knee was just destroyed, and they put it back together. So it was a gamble. It was a risk for Norvell to bring him in, knowing what he'd went through. But I got to tell you, the spring game said a lot to me. And the spring game, you say what you want about the spring game. It's just a televised practice, which is exactly what it is. But I wasn't watching the score. I wasn't watching, the big plays. I was watching X's and O's. I was watching individuals. And Trey Benson lit it up in the spring game. Showed me that he's healing up from this, and he's moving on past it, not only mentally, physically, psychologically, all of it. Okay, and he is big. He is the biggest of the backs, and arguably he might even be the fastest. I don't know. I know Trayshawn Ward's pretty fast, and Toafili's fast, but all those guys can run. And we know Norvell loves to use his running backs. And going back to his days at Memphis, we've talked about that ad nauseum on this podcast, about how much I love Norvell's running backs at the next level. And I say, why not? I say, why can't his knee be completely fixed? And he go on to have a great season for FSU and maybe even turn it into a pro career down the line, because Frank Gore did it. Willis McGahee did it. And those guys, blew their knee out terribly bad. They had really good careers in the NFL. So why not Trey Benson? Why can't he be one? I'll answer that. He can be one. Looking forward to seeing this young man play, when it counts, and seeing what he can do. Lawrence Toafili brings a level to the backfield, a different type of skill set. He's like a gadget type running back. That's like a gadget / running back. He can run it, catch it, end around. He can do things, that Benson probably is capable of, but maybe a little bit better. And Trayshawn Ward can too. But I think Lawrence Toafili brings a level that's even better than both of those guys, because it's more. I think it's a little bit more comfortable for him doing those things. Now, Trayshawn Ward came on big time at the end of the year last year, because they was using the 2-back set with Jashawn Corbin and him, and he had a fantastic season. He's earned the right to be considered the starting running back for this team. Don't get me wrong, but you're going to see a lot of these guys play. And I'm a firm believer that if one guy gets the hot hand, you're going to see that guy. And if one guy's having trouble getting it going because of whatever reasons, you're going to see him mix it up. Somebody comes in, gets a hot hand, I think they're going to stick with him. 1 week it may be Toafili. Toafili may break one, spin off a guy like he did last year, and run for a touchdown on one of the most amazing agility plays I've seen in college football in a long time. He brings that skill set. He gets hot, he gets the rock. This all works in with the offensive line, Jordan Travis. A play-action game could be a factor if this running game's working and the passing game's working because he's getting protection and stuff. They can do so much more offensively with the cohesiveness when it all runs with a little bit of oil in the gears. Ja'Kai Douglas is another guy who pretty much transferred to wide receiver, but he's got big-time speed and he's got playmaking ability. You may see him in the backfield doing some things, sweeps, gadgets, he maybe even toting the ball, but he can also catch the ball very well. And he kind of moved to a receiver position last year. Very versatile group of running backs for FSU, and I think these guys are going to mean so much to this offense because they can make everything so much easier. If the line does its job, Jordan Travis could just go completely crazy because they're not sure what defenses aren't going to know what to do. Defense is like, well, if we key on Jordan Travis, they're going to run us. They can run the ball crazy. If we key on the run game, then Travis can hit us because he's got potentially two guys coming in at wide receiver from the transfer portal. That's a great segue into the wide receiver position. Micah Pittman has impressed me since day one. I started watching his film. I started watching his YouTube show with his girlfriend, fiance, whatever, as soon as he said he was coming to FSU. Watch his film. He's got the playmaking ability. He's not the biggest guy, but he plays bigger than he is. Okay, we saw that in the spring game and in the practices, and if you watch some of the footage of what the raw footage that he taped and stuff and put on there and what they put on during drills, he plays bigger than he is. And I'm fine with that. Okay? I'm fine with that. And he came here to get the opportunity he wasn't getting in Oregon. Plain and simple. He's pretty much even said that. Maybe not word for word, but it's kind of in between the lines kind of thing. Winston Wright, who, that's just bad luck, and I don't know what else to call it. He transfers from West Virginia. Another a big-time player, a big-time kid from a big Power 5 school that has experience not only in the receiving game but on special teams, which is a huge plus. So when I heard he was transferring, I'd already watched him play because I watch West Virginia football. I was like, oh, heck yeah, this kid's coming to FSU. Oh, bring him on. Then he gets in a car accident and gets hurt. I mean, that's just bad luck. That's bad luck. And I don't look for him to be back the first couple of games, but the prognosis is he'll be back sooner than later, which if you ask Norvell when it first happened, he was optimistic, kind of cautiously optimistic he was coming back, but you could kind of hear it in his voice, well, we're just lucky he's still here. To me, when I hear, well, we're just lucky he's still here, that means dude got messed up, in my opinion. It ain't just like, yeah, he walked away with some scrapes and some bruises, and he may have sprained his ankle. When I hear we're lucky to still have him, yikes. But if he comes back, now he has missed a good bit of the off season and what we've went through because of the injury, so he will need to get himself conditioned, get himself integrated into the offense. But this kid is a big time playmaker. And hopefully they can utilize him at some point. But I'm about health first. I don't want to see him out there if he's not ready. So I'm just more worried about his his physical health, getting him right, and then football can come second. Pookie Wilson. Malik McClain, both young wide receivers that kind of had a lot thrown at him last year due to a lack of depth and a lack of experience. But it was a little bit of, iron sharpening iron because they got some serious playing time. And now we've got some depth at the FSU wide receiver position. They brought in Johnny Wilson, a transfer. Still got Keyshawn Helton there, who will play a part. I don't know that he'll play a large role. I think maybe the injury that he sustained to his ACL a couple of years ago, maybe it's not really healed like it needed to, but I think we've lost a little bit of explosiveness that we've seen from Keyshawn Helton, in years past. But this wide receiving room has got some talent that it didn't have before. And it's got some big dudes. Johnny Wilson's big. And has some targets that Jordan Travis can use to his advantage, height and stuff, down in the red zone. I look for Johnny Wilson to play a part down in the red zone early and often. And I would say this. I was actually talking to Chris Frazier about this the other day, that we're forecasting the Duquesne game, and we're assuming and hoping that the game's over by halftime. And some of these younger guys can get to play and get some reps and get some real-life competition against the team, to help them realize and get going as to what's going to happen on the field. And if you haven't checked out Chris Frazier and the Spear Addicts podcast, you got to check him out, because him and Taylor from Norvell Central do a fantastic job down there in Florida. But, we're hoping that this game's over with by halftime, and you're not playing Jordan Travis, you're not playing these running backs, and you're getting them ready for LSU, which is like the big game. This Duquesne game's a warm-up. Get yourself rolling, win, and move on to LSU. Stay healthy, win the game, go to LSU. It's when we hope to see Johnny Wilson, and we hope to see some of these younger players get a chance to get on the field early, and it's only going to help them as we grow throughout the season. At the tight end position, we got Cam McDonald. Cam McDonald has been a solid, reliable force for the past season, and maybe a little bit before that too. Okay, he's big, and he's on the Mackey watch list. If he wins the Mackey Award, that means that FSU's had a heck of a season, and we're going to have all kinds of people getting awards down there if he wins the Mackey. Because there's a bunch of guys that are, really dogs. One of them's in Notre Dame, yeah. One of them's in Georgia, yeah. So if he's to beat those guys out, that means FSU's had a fantastic season. So bring on the Mackey for Cam McDonald. All this offense, it just screams playmakers, which is what Mike Norvell's been preaching since the day he got here. It's just playmakers all over the place. So there's no reason, in my opinion, that FSU isn't going to be better than they were. Offensively, defensively, which we're getting to the defense right now. And I'm going to start with an absolute tackling fool who transferred in. His name's Tatum Bethune, and he is going to immensely help that linebacking group, which by the end of the year last year was playing pretty good. I love Kalen DeLoach. I love Amari Gaynor. Those guys play with a lot of passion and a lot of heart. You add Bethune to that, and you got some linebackers at FSU that should make some noise. But I'm going to start up front. I'm going to start on the D-line with Fabian Lovett, Robert Cooper. And I want to sprinkle in a little Steven Dix, because that guy is a man. He looks like a professional wrestler. But Fabian Lovett, Robert Cooper, the anchors of this D-line, and this defense could be nasty. Okay, and I haven't even got to what I think is the strength of the defense yet, which is the secondary, and I'm going to get to them here in just a minute. But if you're talking Lovett, Cooper, Bethune, DeLoach, Gaynor, Dennis Briggs, Derek McClendon, DJ Lundy, Jarrett Jackson, all these guys up front and on that defensive line and linebackers for Florida State, they got some dogs and they got some depth. And it's got to be a relief, not only to Norvell, but it's got to be a relief to the team to know that this defense can get the ball back for them. Get some 3-and-outs, get some stops when you have to, in games where you have to. That's where it's won and lost. If the defense can't get off the field, the offense can't score. It's really as simple as that, people. I want to talk about the secondary, and I'm going to get out of here for the evening, but this secondary could be awesome. Now, it's not going to be Dion and Jalen Ramsey and T-Buck. It ain't going to be that kind of awesome, but this could be the 2022 awesome version that we've been waiting to see for a while from this FSU secondary. Talked about Jamie Robinson at the ACC kickoff. Okay, Akeem Dent, who Mike Norvell said, well, he was a corner, then he was a safety, then he was a corner, and it didn't work out. We put him back where he's supposed to be, and he flourished. Jamie Robinson, Akeem Dent. With an up-and-coming Duke Cooper. His name's Amarion Cooper, but they call him Duke Cooper. He's an up-and-comer. And I don't hate Kevin Knowles on the other corner. They did lose Jarvis Brownlee, but after doing some research and kind of reading into it, I didn't hate to see the young man go. I wish him well. You know, I was a big fan of his. I thought he played with a lot of heart and a lot of passion, and maybe with a little chip on his shoulder, and I always liked that. But if he didn't want to be here or whatever, that's good. I wish him the best of luck. Good luck with your next endeavor, young man. But this secondary could be special. Okay, now Jamie Robinson got 4 interceptions last year. If he gets 4 again this year, they're going to be doing great. You know, I'd love to see him get 4 interceptions again. But we can't project that. We just have to project and look at what we've got coming in, what they've got, and what they've got is a lot of swagger and a lot of we're not going to get beat like we did before. We're better than we were last year. We're better than you. We're going to line up. And we're going to pop you in the mouth. The secondary could be good. Good. And, I mean, they got some depth, too. They got a freshman, Sam McCall, 5-star freshman coming in. May see some playing time. Okay, Greedy Vance, transfer from Louisville, who I'm really excited to see what this kid brings. We can't forget about Jarian Jones and Travis Jay. Those guys play pivotal roles on that defense too. This defense could be really special this year, and it could surprise a lot of people in the ACC and in the NCAA and in the country itself. This team could be a lot better than everybody's giving it credit for. I didn't say 10 wins, but if they get 8 or 9, I wouldn't be surprised to see them win 8 games. And I think I'm actually on record as saying that, back when we first started talking about this. I wouldn't be surprised to see this team win 8 games. Wouldn't surprise me at all. 10 would blow my mind. 10 means you've done some work, and you've beat some dogs, some stud teams. Okay, the wild card. The wild card, and we're out of here. The wild card, special teams. Theoretically, Winston Wright is a special teams guy too. If he plays, if he's able to play, he's a big-time returner in the kicking game, as is Micah Pittman. I think Pittman might be the punt returner, whereas Winston Wright is the kick returner. But those are 2 transfers in, and that's going to be a huge jump. FSU has to do better. It has to be a factor. Okay, they don't need to take one back every game, but the fair catches and the starting on the 5 has got to go. Giving that team the ball on the 5 over and over and over again results in kicking the ball, and the other team gets the ball at midfield. that formula won't work. Okay, they've got to give them. They've got the special teams has to do something, be better. I mean, it was. I don't know what the numbers were. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't want to look them up because it's abysmal, I'm sure, but they were bad. I don't know if they were the worst in the country, but they had to have been. I don't want to. I'm pretty confident saying bottom 5, bottom 3 in the conference. I don't have the numbers in front of me to back it up, but they were bad. Catch the ball, get a return. Catch the ball, don't lose yardage. Catch the ball, don't let it roll, and then they get it down at the 2. Do something with it. Catch the ball, return it for 10, 15 yards. I ain't saying take it to the house every play. That'd be cool, but it ain't going to happen. But the special teams, and I'm not the only one thinking this. I've heard this from different platforms, different shows, and it's all across. I even brought it up to Norvell at the ACC meetings. The kickoff, they said, your special teams, how important is it, that get better? And he said, well, it's very important. He answered it with, well, it's very important. And he's kind of a special teams guy, going back to his days at Memphis. Memphis special teams was like one of the best in the country, not just in the AAC, one of the best in the country as special teams, kickoffs and stuff. So it's a matter of getting it back to somewhat of that order for Norvell. And if they can have some field position flips in big games where they're close, and Pittman or Winston Wright or anybody who's going to be back there can make something out of nothing and give them something, it could mean a win instead of a loss. And I know I'm preaching to the choir about the special teams because if you're an FSU fan, you already feel the pain that we've suffered the last couple of years. But that's the wild card in all of this is what's the special teams going to do? I'm very confident in the offense being way better. I'm confident in the defense, in my opinion, was good last year. They started out a little rough, a little bit of but as they got rolling, I'm like, the defense, they're not that bad. They're getting better. And as the season went on, the defense got progressively better. And by the end of the season, they were darn good. I'm not going to say they were great or fantastic. They were darn good. They're going to be darn good, and they should be really good this year. So I have faith in that offense. I have faith in the defense. My wild card is the special teams, and if they can right that ship, this FSU team could surprise a lot of people. Now, I know you're saying, Chris, they got a tough schedule, and they do have a tough schedule. Their first half is pretty rocky. It's pretty rocky. We're actually going down. My daughter and I are driving to Tallahassee for the Clemson game. Already got the tickets bought. I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm like, if things fall the right way, and they're able to get a win against LSU or NC State or both of those teams, they could possibly roll into that Clemson game undefeated on a great note, one loss maybe. And you talk about Doak Campbell be rocking that night. If, Clemson comes into Tallahassee and Florida State's one loss and Clemson's undefeated or one loss, that's going to be a fun one. But it also could go really south, and they could have about 2 wins in the bucket if they don't go out there and do what they say they got to do every single game. I think this team can hang with every team they play, because they have the heart, the desire, and the will. And sometimes you don't need to be the best team on paper to win a game. You can win a game you're not supposed to win. You can. You're allowed. That's why they play the game. Win a game you're not supposed to win. Beat NC State. Shock the world and beat NC State. If they beat LSU, I don't think it's going to be that shocking if they beat LSU, just because it's a new coaching staff. They're in a transition phase, but they are coached by a guy who's a very good coach. But if they were to go into and beat LSU, in Louisiana, it would be big time news. I'd be so happy, but I wouldn't be ultimately shocked, because I think LSU's beatable. Just because of the transition, the quarterback, I think if getting them early is a very good key for Florida State. I think getting them early as opposed to playing them late is definitely good. But yeah, the top half of the schedule, it's a little rocky. You got Louisville, Wake, NC State. I think they can beat Wake. I really do. They're going to have their hands full with Louisville because Cunningham is one heck of a quarterback. Then you got the back half. You got Miami, and you got Florida, the back half of the schedule. So, I mean, it's tough. That's why if they were to win 8 games, then we're going to know that FSU is going to be just fine with Norvell, Adam Fuller, Alex Atkins. That coaching staff is going to be just fine as long as they can keep them all. I hope they can keep them all for a few years anyway. Because if Alex Atkins is what we think he's going to be, they're going to want him to be a head coach sooner than later for some school. It's going to be a fun year. It all starts week 0 against Duquesne. Practices start Wednesday. That'll do it for my 2022 State of the Seminoles. Hope you enjoyed that. If you're a Seminole fan, I don't see why you wouldn't. Give it a listen. Give me a shout on Twitter at CGATBlitz. You can find the show everywhere. It's football season, people. NFL teams are reporting. The NFL Network goes live Monday. It's football season. It's back. Have a great week. See you next time on the Blitz.